Hey guys, Moses with Negron Tech here, and I'm back with another melee build, but this isn't really a true build guide as the build isn't completely tested, and unlike a lot of other build creators that just go into POB, create a build, throw a whole bunch of numbers at you without playing or tasting it to the end game. I do not do that. So, as you know, I'm a true melee Chad, a true melee enjoyer and lover. So, as I said in other videos, my second build I really wanted to test out Chieftain. Now, instead of just going a normal slam Chieftain like Fissure, Tectonic, I thought, let me go a different direction. Why not do something no one is doing and give you the rundown on whether or not it's even worth your time? With that said, I present to you a true melee Ignite build, the Infernal Blow of Immolation Ignite Chieftain. Is this the best melee Ignite build? I have no idea. I'm just a pleb. I don't really play Ignite, but goddamn is this build fun and satisfying to play. So why do we use Infernal Blow? Well, Infernal Blow of Immolation actually has ridiculous damage scaling. Now, you Infernal Blow somebody of Immolation, and then instead of the charges expending on the enemy, they expend on ourselves. It also has a higher damage multiplier than the regular Infernal Blow. Now, we're doing 90% of the charge per hit, stacking up to 6 times. So once we get to 6 charges, now those charges are going to expend in an AoE around us and do a massive hit that's going to make it very easy to scale our ignite damage off of. But there's actually more, because I want you guys to really read carefully on the wiki and these couple of parts right here. For the purposes of Ruthless Bows and Exerting, which we are going to do both, this charge expenditure, that 6 stack that gets expended, it's going to snapshot that Ruthless Strike and all the exerts that we do, right? We're going to use overexertion. We're going to use other Warcries, right? Very, very good. Now, Ruthless Bows, very, very cool. Back in patch 3.22, they changed it, so now it's all ailments. It'll help the Ignite, right? We go back to Infernal Blow. Ruthless is every 3rd attack. Guess what? It lines up perfectly. We have no thought process to maintain. We attack 3 times. The second set of Ruthless Blows, that second strike, it's going to do massive damage, and it's going to snapshot that Infernal Blow of Immolation's 6 charge, giving us an even more multiplier for that damage too. But there's more. We go to the tree. Guess what? That Ruthless Blow has a base stun duration, and we go to Concussive Force. Now, that Ignite from that huge stunning hit, because it's going to be a massive hit. We have that Ruthless Blow strike, 20% more damage with that Ignite, so that's kind of crazy, right? So that's what's going on here, okay? So furthermore, with Ignite, the base duration is 4 seconds. My setup is a little over 5, which does not work out perfectly. Ideally, let's say we had a Ignite duration of 6 seconds and we attacked 1 time per second. That would be perfect, right? It's not high DPS, but we want to make it to where, like, if I attack 2 times per second, by the time I hit my 6th attack, that last Ruthless Infernal Blow of Immolation 6 stack expenditure is finishing up its duration, ending, and then that second set of 6 attacks, that Ruthless Blow again, with all the benefits, the exertions, all that stuff, is going to apply another singular Ignite. I don't think Ember Wake is the play here because of the mechanics and, well, really just because of the mechanics of the skill and how we're building the character. I don't think it's really appropriate. We would have to get, like, really, really high duration to get 2 big Ignites, and I don't think it's worth it because, you know, getting more duration doesn't really necessarily mean more damage per second. It'll increase the damage per Ignite, but not really the damage per second. Okay, so that's talking about the theory of the build. So why are we Chieftain? Well, I told you before I wanted to do a Chieftain build, and I wanted to do something different. So what do we got here? Chieftain, we get Warcries have infinite power and Warcry buff effect. Warcry buff effect affects everything that the buff of the Warcry provides. When you go over here, let me go to PoE because it's a little bit prettier, right? We go to Infernal Cry, right? We get percentage fizz damage as extra fire, right? So as we get Warcry buff effect, we get over 100% here. Now we're scaling that, so instead of 25, now we're getting almost 50, right? So, like, that's the logic of the Warcry buff effect. Same thing with the Ancestral Cry. We get much more higher, we get higher max res potential. It's going to be very easy to get 90 all max res in this build, and that's what Warcry buff effect does, right? So that's very, very good. What's the other benefit is that we have infinite power. Now, again, I told this in one of my videos that infinite power does not mean what you think it means. What it actually means is that we Warcry and we always get the maximum amount of power here, right? So, like, the DPS shot up, I'll wait for the buff to expand, you'll see it go down. So Warcry's infinite power, we always get the max amount of power regardless of the enemies, which is actually pretty good for bossing, right? Like, bossing mapping, we always get the max benefit, right? Very, very good. The way I set it up is that I do more duration because the buff effects are very, very good and we want to maintain them as long as possible, right? So it's a little bit more quality of life there. Enduring Cry, very, very good too. We get more life regen. We get a whole bunch of life regen here. I think over here, what do we got? 1390, so not too bad, but pretty good, right? So good recovery and we leech. So that's the idea of the infinite power, and the Warcry buff effect gives us a lot of good benefits. Gives us damage, defensive, and recovery. It gives us everything we want in a build, right? With just 2 Ascendancy nodes, so that's very, very cool. What else? Death's Fury. You don't have to take this, but if I'm playing Chieftain, you're damn well sure I'm getting Explodes because it is just awesome. Why would I not want to have Explodes? This build, it's kind of overkill, but hey, you know, we're the fire melee ignite build, prolific ignites, give it more chance to explode. You know, I showed you earlier, huge screen clears, very, very, very cool. And then, of course, you will take Tukahama's War Herald because it's a free link. Now, the only negative is that it does increase the mana reservation, but level 30 Ancestral Crawl, normally Ancestral Crawl will decrease your damage to strike additional opponents. This actually is a 10% more multiplier at level 30, so that's pretty nice too. The way the build's set up, I have no, you know, I'm still working on the gear, I'm only level 82, but you know, so far so good, right? You don't need to really get additional strikes because now you're striking 2 additional enemies almost all the time, and then now you're striking another 2 additional enemies, so you're hitting 5 people with 1 melee attack. It's pretty damn cool. Like, the map clear is disgusting in combination with Explodes, Ignite Prolifs, you know, and just the normal Infernal Blow, Charge, you know, Explosion on kill. It's just the mapping's crazy on Chieftain, right? It's very, very, very cool. So that's that. And then, of course, we have Cleansing Water because it's just like, I actually don't have max res without Cleansing Water. It's just like getting a whole bunch of fire resist is just awesome. And I do want to show you guys one thing. I'm in solo self-found, so I'll probably never be able to get this because the runes are so rare. But if we go to axes here, go to two-handed axes, there is one rune over here. 7 to 10% increased fire damage per 1% fire resistance above 75%. Wow. Every 1% of fire resist above 75, 10% more damage potentially. Now, is that local on the weapon? Yeah, it might be, but still, that's kind of just massive, right? Imagine getting even just, you know, 175%. Now you have 1,000, you know, 100 times 10 is 1,000. Now you have 1,000% increased local damage. Yeah, that's really, really nuts. If you guys are watching this video and not in solo self-found, and I know power runes are super rare, maybe try to invest in some and see if you can, hopefully somebody will release a video or kind of like show actually how good that is, because I can just imagine fire res stacking with that too, alright? So that's really, really cool. So that's talking about Chieftain. Now, secondly, let me talk about the tree, because the tree is really, really hard. Things like increased damage with axe attacks, increased melee damage, stuff like that actually does not scale the Ignite. Ignite has very specific scalings ever since double diff nerf years ago. So things like this. Now, if we have nodes on the tree that say something like this, increase physical damage with two-handed weapons. Now, the physical damage is getting scaled to fire because we're full convert. We're going to go fire masteries over here for full convert. That actually will increase it along with increased damage with ailments. It does not specify which ailments. Ignite is an ailment, so things like that will benefit. So going down here for axe damage, I might go down this way. You know, I still got, you know, 10, 15 more points to go. Very, very good, right? Things like rage won't increase the ignite damage, but the tree's a little bit funky, right? Because the way I'm going to do it, and I talked about this with the other videos that we are Warcry slash you know, ignite build. Like, we're Chieftain, it just makes sense to go Warcries. They give you such a huge benefit. So we get cooldown reduction on Warcry. You know, we get buff effect, which is very, very good. We're going to get more buff effect down here, which is very, very good. Enemies taunted by Warcries, they'll take increased damage, which will help with this node over here where they're covered in ash. So that's great. We get a lot of free regen with the Fire Mastery over here. Now, everything else, when you look at this tree, it's a lot of utility because it's kind of hard to get a lot of the ignite scaling on this left side of the tree, right? While getting good life recovery, right? This tree to me feels a little bit cursed looking at it, because I haven't found a way to really optimize it, but I am trying my best. I think a cluster setup is mandatory, and a big problem with Chieftain, and especially on this side of the tree, there's no leech. You know, the attack leech, because remember, we're only doing fire damage, is all the way over here. I cannot justify going over here. Like, maybe if you go over here and then want to go over here for like burning brutality, but the pathing is just tough. Like, it's hard to really justify going that far. So instead, I'd rather just get Feed the Fury and then Fuel the Fight while leeching. And while leeching, even if you're not a Slayer, it's still very, very good, because as you're spending your mana, you're going to be leeching it non-stop, right? So you spend a good amount of mana, you Warcry, right? You're spending mana, you're almost always leeching, even as not a Slayer. Not like 100% uptime, but generally you're going to always benefit from that, which is very, very good. Another problem is chance to ignite. Our skill gives us no inherent chance to ignite. That's a little bit tough, right? So we have to get ignite from the tree. We can get ignite from cluster jewels over here. Another big benefit is going to be combustion. I'm using this for now. I think later game, getting better jewels that have ignite chance like this, and then maxing out our ignite chance like that with combination of flammability. Remember, I'll talk about my Warcries in a little bit, but again, reducing the fire res, plus more importantly, the chance to ignite. Very, very good. You want 100% a chance to ignite on this build, because if you don't, and then you hit that 6 charge, and you don't ignite on that 6 charge, you're just doing a massive DPS nerf, right? So that's how we max our ignite chance. Secondly, let's talk about the Warcry setup. The gameplay is really, really simple. We're going to use auto exertion. Over exertion is going to help just our damage and ignite damage, so that's very, very huge. We're going to exert. Right now, I have a 6 link, so we're going to have Intimidating Cry. Now, remember, Intimidating Cry does nothing. The double damage is not gonna, even if we double the hit damage, the ignite doesn't reflect that double damage, so that's kind of sad, but we still use it and automated it because it's just another exerted attack, right? It's exerted attacks, not exerted slam attacks, so we can use that. We also use Battle Mage's Cry to get flammability, then Rallying Cry. It exerts attacks. We don't have allies. It might be worth it to do, what's it called? Hero Purity, and then maybe self-cast Rallying Cry, I don't know. And then auto exertion, of course, is just very, very huge. I have Heralded Ash, but I'm not using it right now. I was using that because the MTX is cool. So right now I'm only using auto exert and malevolence with no aura res over here, just the mana mastery. I'm doing that for now. I don't know. It's a work in progress, right? And then we have a bunch of utility. I manually class Infernal Cry, Ancestral Cry, and Enduring Cry, because Enduring Cry, you have to cast it for the endurance charges. Plus, getting the buff effect on life regen is huge. Getting the buff effect on max reg is massive. And getting the buff effect on fizz as added fire is massive again, right? So that's the setup. The gameplay for mapping, as you saw a little bit earlier, you literally just leap them around. We're actually faster than the Slayer. Our attack rate, at least, without like all the buffs going up and stuff like that, killed recently, which is nice. So it's a pretty speedy mapper. Better clear than the Earthshatter Slayer, obviously, because it's Chieftain explodes. I'm also using Legacy of the Fury for really no reason. The Scorch is nice, but late game you can get the Scorched implicit Eldritch, which is cool too. You can just move around, get the Scorch for a little bit right before you get that 6 attack, and you can maximize your damage that way too, which is nice. So I talked about the gem links, the skill setup, the Warcry, stuff like that. I'll have it listed in here. Again, I actually don't have it from the Bull of Immolation. I'm a solo self-found. I gotta farm it up. Sorry about that. I'm just really lazy when it comes to it. Don't have all the time in the world, so I gotta hunker down and get into lab and just get that damn gem. But looking into it, like when you go to the calculation and you go to the actual like more multiplier, how crazy it is, and you go to the damage per ignite, again, that's the damage per ignite. That's not the actual ignite DPS. And let me get rid of that tincture real quick. I'll talk about that in a second. So like pretty good for only level 82. You know, I do have a really good axe, I feel like. I got lucky from the shipments. I literally got this axe from shipments with those prefixes. Open suffix, lock prefix, reforge, speed, got the speed, the attack speed. Had 2 open suffixes, so I have fire damage over time multiplier crafted, and then I'll probably, maybe there's a warlord, or maybe there's some type of exalted, like specialty exalted orb I can use maybe to get something else. But that's pretty much it. Now, gem links, I actually don't know what's the best. I'd rather not have combustion here and get ignite chance from the tree, as I was talking about earlier. Get it from the gems, maybe use a point over here to get it. I'd rather do it that way, and then maybe even the cluster jewels get ignite over there. But gotta farm some harvests and recraft some of the jewels and stuff like that, get a whole bunch of juice. But looking at it, it's pretty damn good, right? Like that's pretty good for like a low level character. Yeah, the axe is good, but for melee ignite, that's pretty good overall damage potential, right? Like DPS gets pretty. Let me actually fix it. Sorry about that. So it'd be a little bit lower, obviously, but like DPS gets a little construed where it's like, oh my god, you're not doing Telmul DPS. Like you don't need to like just destroy the game all the time, right? So I am missing a lot. I don't have fire exposure yet. Let's see, I've covered an ash checked off, burning, whatever. We are fortified. The ruthless support is not the max effect, because you got to remember this is actually misconstrued, because the debuff explosion, like we're going into the average, right? But it's actually not going to be it's going to be the average of the ruthless hit. So it's actually going to be higher than this, right? Like when I go into the configuration, I don't know why the max effect is based off the maximum effect, the damage actually goes down, and it doesn't really make sense to me why. When you think about it, I think it's because it's talking about the DPS, but like in a vacuum, what's gonna happen is that the Ruthless Strike, we're only igniting. Our only ignites are gonna be from this Ruthless Strike debuff explosion, which is really really nice, right? One thing to note is that if you attack and you miss your Ruthless, like we don't miss because we're Resolute Technique, but if you attack and you miss your Ruthless, what you can do is that you can slot off Infernal Blow, go into the game real quick. Sorry about that. So yeah, now I'm in the game real quick. What you would actually want to do is unsock Infernal Blow that's linked to Ruthless. I don't have it yet because I don't have my 6 link, so working on it, but you would put it back in to reset your Ruthless counter because we don't have a Ruthless tracker in game. I kind of wish they would just add a buff in the corner. They have buff for things like Magmatic Strike, so I don't know why they can't do a Ruthless buff. Maybe even over here, just at least something would be good. But just remember, you know, this only really matters for boss team, but you want to make sure you always line up that Ruthless. And if you think you're out of sync with your Ruthless strikes, that's probably why. But overall, the damage to me is still really good. I do want to talk about the Tincture because the Tincture's huge. I only ever use this for bosses or like just absolutely ridiculous rares. This isn't actually the best Tincture because you would rather have increased mana burn and increased effect. And you would check this off and you get a really, really big multiplier. The dot multi is not working. I have it in the config over here. You could just get rid of that dot. And that's the full potential of the Tincture. So very, very, very cool, you know. 7 mil damage per ignite for endgame boss team at level 82. Again, you still have at least, like, for me, it would be like 13, 14 more passive points to work out and really min-max the build. A lot more jewels, fix the cluster setup. Again, stuff like Smite the Weak, it doesn't help us. The attack damage isn't scaling the ignite, so stuff like that doesn't really help us. Lining up your ignite duration to your attacks per second, because mine isn't perfect right now. So if I'm attacking 2 times per second, after 3 seconds, that ignite, I'm applying a new big ignite. So ideally, like, I would actually want it a little bit lower than 3 seconds. But if I'm attacking this fast, I would actually want a little bit lower duration, which now Swift Affliction, something like Swift Affliction would really come in here, right? Because now, you know, I know it's ignore the number, but like something like that, now attacking that fast, all of a sudden, because by the time 3 seconds have gone by, I've attacked at least 6 times, getting towards that new ignite, which is very, very, very nice. So things like Malevolence actually might not be the play. Just some stuff to tinker with and fool around with to really, really min-max the build. But again, that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. I have a lot of work to do. Again, I have like another 13 levels to farm. Got to get my 6 link. I have 6 links in here, but I want to get it on a royal plate, like something like this instead of, you know, a Titan plate over here. But, you know, min-maxing the build, especially solo self-found, is a process, and it's a process I thoroughly enjoy. Now, if you're in trade, go out and buy all the things you need. I don't think this unique is really even necessary. You can just go crafted boots and craft the Eldritch Implicit that Scorch Drown while moving for a couple seconds, because you really only need to Scorch when you're applying that 6 charge effect, right? So that's pretty much it. Very, very, very simple. Again, guys, if any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know. I would love to hear what you guys think. I'd love to hear if you guys have experience with it or experience with Melee Ignite. Please let me know. One last thing about the Tincture is I think this one's better than the Ignite Tincture. We don't need the Ignite chance. It's better to get the Ignite chance from 100% without the Tincture, because we're not a warden. We're not going to get the Tincture effect 100% of the time, so no point in relying on that, right? So, and again, that's a much higher damage multiplier with melee weapons than the Tincture damage, right? Again, that's it. Hope you guys enjoy. Most with Necron Tech here. Have a good one.